Walk up to their house and knock on the front door to get them to come out and play. Now I'm on my knees in front of his casket, wondering how this could happen. And a friend of mine walked up to me after the funeral and he said, "Now you have to live for 2 people. Are you strong enough?" I said, "Yes." I go back out on the road. I go to Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I'm sitting there eating dinner with my brother. I look up at him. I couldn't even take a bite of food. I started bawling my eyes out. The next morning, we're walking to the train site, and he looks at me and he says, "Frank, you can't hold all this in. You have to come and talk to me about this." I didn't listen to him. I didn't pay attention. I started to drink heavier. I started to smoke more weed. Now it wasn't drinking and smoking weed to feel socially accepted. It's I got to drink and smoke weed to mask this inner pain that I have. Every night, we would go out to the bar, and we would come back to my hotel room, we'd be playing video games, and I would be smoking weed, but what no one knew who I was working with is when they would leave my room, I would stay up and I would smoke weed until I would black out. Every night I was getting 3 hours of sleep. Finally, we get to Gaithersburg, Maryland. I couldn't just get up after 3 hours of sleep anymore and take Tylenol and drink coffee and smoke cigarettes to take care of my hangover. And this girl I worked with, she walks up to me. She holds her hand down. There's 3 pills in it. These pills are called 222s. They're 8 milligrams of codeine, which is a painkiller, which is an opiate, and caffeine. I took those 3 pills. 10 minutes later, I was numb. What we didn't know was the next morning when I got up, it wasn't, "Good morning, how are you?" It was, "Can I have 3 more of those pills?" At the end of the month, she says to me, "Frank, you're out of control. I'm not giving you any more of these." So I say to her, "Where do you get them?" And she tells me, "You have to go to Canada to get them." So we had this big display, this big map of the U.S. And it was saying, like, every city we're going to be in. I walked right over to it, and I looked at the closest city we were going to be to Canada. 5 months away, it was in Ypsilanti, Michigan. I couldn't wait to get to that place. We get there, I jump in her car, I go across the border, I buy two bottles, come across the border. The 24 milligrams turned into 200 a day, very, very rapidly. Plus I was drinking and smoking weed on top of that. When those pills ran out, I started to go through some withdrawal symptoms. I had no idea what was going on because I'm not educated. I don't know that my body is not dependent on this drug. When that job was over, I came home and I had a lot of money, and I would be going out to the bars with $500, $1,000 in my pocket, buying everybody drinks, thinking I'm pretty cool, you know. I get a job at Pepsi, and I'm sitting in my basement, and I'm bored, and I'm thinking to myself, so far now I've only drank and smoked weed and took pills. I never snorted a drug. I said to myself, I gotta go try something. So I go to my buddy's house. He has this aluminum foil. It's like in a ball. He opens it up. It's filled with this powder. It's called powdered ecstasy. It's called Molly, right? He sticks a key in it, and he says, snort this up your nostril. So I did. I start walking away. He says, no, you're not done yet. He pulls me back. He sticks it back in. He says, snort this up your other nostril. So I did. That night, me and my buddies just kind of hung out, did whatever. A couple nights later, sitting in my basement again, thinking to myself, I'm going to try something different. I go to it. It was this little powder line of heroin. Dude's holding this rolled up dollar bill, and he says to me, "You sure you want to do this?" I ripped it out of his hand. I said, "I'm Frank Casino, there's no way that can hurt me." I snorted that line. 2 minutes later, that drug started taking over my body. I was sitting on this porch, and I was falling asleep because opiates are respiratory depressants. You guys know the feeling when you're really tired, and you're sitting at home, and your head's hitting your head's nodding like this. Imagine that times 1,000. That's what this drug does. That's why people fall asleep and overdose and die. That night we went to the bar, and I'm standing there, and this drug is making my body burn up now. We get in there, I had to take my shirt off because I was so hot. I'm standing in the Boulevard Grill with a beer in this hand, a pool stick in this hand, and my brother comes walking in. And he looks at me and goes, "Frank, what's going on?" The same brother, when I was a kid, 5, 6 years old, we shared a room together. And he would come home, and I would get so excited because he was going to tell me a bedtime story. Now he has to see his baby brother turn into a full-blown heroin addict right in front of his eyes. So he took me home. And when I went to sleep, the first thing that was going through my mind was the first time that I took those opiates when I was a kid, when I got my teeth pulled. And my feeling was, wow, this is what I've been searching for this whole time. From that point on, I think of it as this animal that was right beside me. This animal would be right beside me, laying on me for the next 10 years of my life. The day before, I was saying, there's no way that that can hurt me. Within a very short period of time, I was broke. And I started the dishonest life of a drug addict. I was lying to my friends about money. I was stealing from my parents, from anybody. It did not matter who they were. Finally, my parents went away to Florida. This was about 6 months into my heroin use. I said, I have to get off of this. So this is back when, we didn't have, you didn't have cell phones. I could just unplug my phone at my house. That's what I did. I basically just stayed in my home. And I was laying on my floor, watching TV. Opiate withdrawal, heroin withdrawal, you guys. Your bones hurt. You cannot sleep. Your muscles are constantly twitching. You cannot keep any food down. You're always defecating yourself. The smell that comes off of your body when you're not using that drug and it's coming out of your pores is something you've never experienced before in your life. I always think of it as a rotting carcass. About 2 days in, I wasn't sleeping from all this, so I took a shower. When I got out of the shower, I was so mentally and physically exhausted. I just laid on my bathroom floor and threw a towel over me. I have no idea how long I was sleeping for. But when I woke up, I'd say about 4 more days I had to go through this. And what I didn't understand is I can't stop the heroin and continue to use other substances. So I was drinking and I was smoking weed. About 3 weeks in, my mind's telling me this is not what you want. So I started chewing up painkillers again. That led me right back into using heroin. When I first started using heroin, it was like 5 bags a day. Now it's up to 10. And at the time, I was in a relationship with an incredible girl. And every chance I got, I would lie to her. I would steal her money. I would do anything in the world to get my hands on that drug. I was working overnight shifts at Pepsi at the time. And my money would run out after like 2 days when I would get paid. I was going around to all the supermarkets in town, and I was writing bad checks. Finally, all these bad checks started coming back to me. If my parents didn't bail me out, the law would have caught up with me. So one day I'm getting ready to go to work. I don't have any money and I need heroin. And I'm asking my girlfriend if I can have some money. She's holding this $50 bill in her hand. She says to me, "Are you using heroin again?" She had known before we met that I was using. I ripped the $50 bill out of her hand and I said, "Yes," and I ran out the door. I bought 2 bags. I went to Sheets. Used 1 bag there. When I went to work, I used the rest of it. When I came home, my pillow was on the porch outside with a note on it. "I'm not going to put up with you lying to me. You're either going to have to get help or I'm leaving you." The next day I went to work. I didn't have any heroin. I'm going through full-blown opioid withdrawal right in the middle of the plant. Forklifts driving all around me, and I'm standing there freezing cold, and I'm bawling my eyes out. And I called my brother and we're talking, and I said, "My life's falling apart all around me." I go to my boss, I tell her what's going on. She says, "Frank, we have a drug treatment program. Will you please accept this?" I said, "Yes." First thing I did was I went to an inpatient out in Altoona. I stayed there 6 hours. The opiate withdrawal was too much for me, so I came home and I went to an outpatient treatment program. Every time I went there, when I left, I didn't pay attention to what any counselor was telling me. I went straight to my dealer's house. Finally, my girlfriend finds out that I'm doing this still. She says, "We have to tell your parents. I can't do this all on my own." We go to my parents' house. She's sitting on one side of the table, I'm sitting on the other. She looks at me and she says, "Tell them." And I says, "I cannot tell them." She turns to them. My parents are sitting in 2 separate chairs. And she says, "Your son's a heroin addict." My parents are sitting there and the wind got knocked out of them. They slumped down in their chair and they couldn't believe those words were coming out of her mouth. My father's sitting there telling me, "Frank, please get help." He's giving me every word of encouragement. I could care less what he was saying because I'm starting to feel the dull pain behind my eyes because I'm starting to go through withdrawal. The only thing I was thinking about was sneaking away because I had 2 bags of heroin in my pocket, and how can I use them? This is in 2002. This is when I started to lose every single thing. I lost my girlfriend, my job. I lost my first friend to an overdose. He was 6 months clean. And he said, "I'm going to try this one more time." And he goes to Pittsburgh, but he didn't know he got a lethal dose. There was fentanyl in it. He shot up in the Starbucks bathroom in Squirrel Hill. The door was locked. He overdosed and died on the floor. He was all alone. Finally, 2 years later, his kid brother Joseph was in the experimental stages. He had pneumonia, and he took methadone. Methadone is also an opiate. It is a respiratory depressant. What he didn't know was the combination of the pneumonia and that pill was going to take his life. 2 brothers within 2 years. Guess where these guys graduated from? Right here. They live 2 blocks away. You know, there's a special guest here today. Their mother, Ann Bartoli. Please stand.